So I'm probably on my third or fourth rewatch of Fear the Walking Dead, and I figured, why not make a video about it? Hey Saviors and Alexandrians, yes, I know that's not really from Fear, but still. My name is TheiPadCat, and in today's video, I'm gonna talk about why any fan of apocalypse universes should absolutely watch at least the first season of Fear the Walking Dead. Before we begin, I'd just like to say that I am a huge fan of both Fear and the Walking Dead main series, which obviously means that I'll be biased in this video. I do, however, also have my gripes with both series, but I'm gonna try my best to remain objective. And since we're talking about a show taking place in the same universe as one of the biggest shows ever, there is going to be a spoiler-free section at the start, and then we're moving on to include spoilers in the discussion. But without further ado, let's get started. So, you might have heard that Fear Season 1 is slow and boring, with characters you don't care about and so on. That it takes far too long to get started and that there's not enough action. And I guess you could see it that way. Ever since the Walking Dead main series aired for the first time in 2010, complaints about how there's not enough focus on the zombies and survival, and how there is no explanation for the virus, have been quite common. The thing is that that's not what The Walking Dead is about. The Walking Dead is about how characters faced with obstacles putting extreme stress on their civilized values, like the end of the world, would react. It's about their relationships to other characters, the morals of right and wrong. It was never about the action, the zombies or the virus. And that core of what The Walking Dead is echoed in Fear as well. Most of the criticisms I mentioned at the start are valid if that's what you're looking for. But then I wouldn't really say you're a post-apocalypse or apocalypse fan. I'd say that's a more general action fan who maybe prefers the action to be in a setting such as The Walking Dead or something similar. Anyways, what's so good about Fear then? It's no secret that the world ends in the Walking Dead universe. Before Fear though, there really wasn't an apocalypse, just a post-apocalypse. All we got was Rick waking up over 60 days after things went drastically south, alone in a place where pretty much everyone seemed to be dead. Only really dealing with the fallout of the collapse of society and not the event itself. Now don't get me wrong, I think the pilot is one of the best things of all time in television overall, especially those 10 or so first minutes. The thing is that a lot of post-apocalyptic universes handle the end of the world this way, although it can be done in a very good way, like 28 Days Later, The Last of Us, or the just mentioned Walking Dead main series. It's still missing out on some amazing opportunities for awesome and terrifying stories. In Fear, we start out while Rick is in coma at the hospital, on the onset of the outbreak, in a society still unaware of its imminent collapse. We get to follow an array of different characters in their daily lives most of us can relate to, which makes it all the more disturbing when things start happening. Sure, we can all share Rick's horror when he walks out of the hospital for the first time, but it doesn't hit as close to home as Fear does. In The Walking Dead and a lot of other post-apocalyptic universes, everything is already gone. It's already a new world. Sure, that can be very immersive and horrifying as well, but the aspect of a world and reality that we can recognize and relate to falling apart the way it does in Fear is such a chilling feeling. Yes, I know that end of the world movies have been done before. World War Z and 2012, just to mention some. But those stories are way more action-packed and focus less on the actual effects of the apocalypse and more on gunfights and collapsing buildings. In Fear, we actually get to see the gradual collapse of society and what it does to our characters. We get to see how people as well as authorities desperately try to hold on, how some people make sacrifices just to keep going, and others just give up. So, in short, without spoiling anything, you should watch Fear the Walking Dead Season 1, and of course further if you liked the first season, but at least the first one, because it's, as far as I know, the only media that goes out of its way to actually depict the human element in the fall of society. What's scary isn't necessarily the zombies, the jump scares or other general horror elements. Rather, it's simple things, such as the lights going out, the highways being totally clogged, and the phone lines going down. Things we take for granted going away hours from each other, it affects you on a whole other level than other horror stories. Now, I guess you have to be a fan of apocalyptic stories to get into it that way, but if you're watching my channel, I would guess you are. Anyways, let's move on to the spoiler section of the video. What you just saw is a part of one of my absolute favorite scenes in any TV series or movie. Sure, it's just the lights going out, so what's so special about that? Well, it's how it's executed, what it represents. Fear didn't choose to portray the end of civilization with explosions and over-the-top gunfights, action scenes or even zombies. This scene has no dialogue. Absolutely phenomenal music and just facial expressions. You can see and almost sense the realization that they're all having in that car. That this is it. This is the point of no return. This is one of those moments I was talking about in the spoiler-free section. Sure, jump scares can be scary. Disgusting monsters and dark alleyways can be terrifying. But this scene, and this whole episode, and to an extent, the season and the slow death of society is what makes it scary. It's not explained away or time skipped over. We're there for every uncomfortable step on the way to the fall. It's a different type of horror. But what about the characters? Are they as bad as critics make them out to be? Well, no. In my opinion at least. Though I won't deny that there is some merit to the complaints. Some characters, like Chris or Liza, have nowhere near enough development, and yet the writers try to make us care about them. It feels like they just threw way too many characters in the mix, which resulted in all of them having way too little time to be established. Either it should have just been the Clark family, or they should have made more than 6 episodes. Most of them have pretty interesting concepts that unfortunately for the most part aren't used to their full potential. One of these characters is Nick. He's the son of, I guess, the main character of the show, Madison, and he's a heroin addict. The whole show in fact starts with him finding out that his girlfriend had become a walker after dying of an overdose. He of course gets terrified and runs out of the place they held up in and gets hit by a car. And by the time he wakes up at the hospital, he has no idea of if what he saw was real. And of course nobody believes him. Both this and the fact that he's going through withdrawal and abstinence as the world is breaking down around him makes for some great stories and brings some more of that drama that makes The Walking Dead so great. When the initial fall of society has happened and everything seems lost, the cavalry arrives. The military rolls in and sets up a safe zone where everything, at least in the beginning, seems like it's going to be okay. But as the second half of the season progresses, you start to see the cracks. The morale of both the civilians and soldiers quickly deteriorates, and the military get harsher and harsher. And the only thing upholding the chain of command is the stone-cold commanding officer. Eventually they're giving the order to just abandon everything and retreat. What makes this so good is the way post-apocalyptic stories work. Shoddycast, a great YouTuber, made a pretty interesting video about why we like stories in which the world ends. To sort of boil his points down, we don't. We like it when it almost goes completely to shit, but not really. The fact that there is still hope despite the bad odds is what seems to be the major factor that make a post-apocalyptic story good. That's why the second half of the season is also so great, because we have that hope. But it ends up being crushed when things spiral out of control. And this time, it really is the end. The old world's last line of defense is either gone or in full retreat. There is nothing left. There is a minor character called Dr. Exner, who works at the military headquarters, who in the last episode just tells our group that there is nowhere left to go, and refuses to go with them and instead commits suicide. She was a representative of the government and the ones who were supposed to pull everything back from the brink. Her utter hopelessness and the statement of there being nowhere left to go just pulls that hope of the world not ending from us. And yet again gives you that chilling feeling just as the lights going out did. Look, Fear is by no means perfect. There are really stupid things in it as well, like the military always being the cartoony bad guys, bulletproof zombies completely overrunning vastly superior enemies, and the underuse of Tobias' character, and so on. But I think I've made my points of why every fan of apocalyptic universes should watch this show, or at least the first season, clear. But that's just what I think. Would you like more videos about The Walking Dead? What do you think about what I said in this video? Do you agree with my points? Disagree? Do you think Fear Season 1 is as good as I think, or do you think it's boring or bad? Or if you haven't watched it yet, are you going to? Tell me in the comments down below and let's discuss it, and until next time, have a great day.